Hey everybody, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. So sit back and enjoy.
News about comic books, musical instruments, tech reviews, and video games with your host, Captain Frugal.
Welcome back, comic book fans, and welcome back to the channel. Every week, a flood of comics hits the shelves, and it can be tough to decide what to pick up. But don't worry, that's what I'm here for. We're about to dive in to this week's releases to crown one book the comic of the week. Will it be an epic superhero showdown, a mind-bending indie darling, or maybe a hilarious new series that everyone has been talking about? I've read a stack of them, and I've got some strong opinions. So stick around to the very end to see which comic earned the top spot and why you absolutely need to add it to your collection. Feel free to drop your own picks in the comments below. I'd love to see what you're reading. So, let's get into it. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more comic book reviews every week. Welcome back, everybody, to the comic book shop discussion here. Sorry I wasn't able to do a video last week. I just did not have time to get to the comic shop, so I couldn't really get anything to review. And then I had, catch up reading all that stuff. But unlike that, I got quite a few of them today. Matter of fact, I read so many, I have to cut down how many I review. So let's start with a controversial one, in my opinion. That's The Amazing Spider-Man, number 16. The reason I say it's controversial is because right now we're getting sort of two stories. We're getting one where we have Ben and Norman that focuses on them. Then the next issue we have Peter in space. And me, I have a completely disconnected feeling with the space one. So when it comes to the ground level one with Ben and Norman, I am liking those, but I am really not liking this Peter in space. So Amazing Spider-Man number 16 had 366 ratings, 3.7 mostly positive score, and I gave the book a 7.7 on this one. The writer's Joe Kelly and the letter's, the penciler, is John Romita Jr. And I know he's a controversial artist at this point too, and I get it, his artwork just isn't what it used to be, in my opinion. But with that said, I don't think it's terrible. I think it sort of fits Spider-Man. His artwork fits some series better than others, and this is what I think it does. And, well, my first thought is, when I seen this, is this has to be better than the last boring issue with Peter in space. And thankfully, I was right. I thought it was a lot better. You can tell by my score of 7.7. Interesting story here with Norman appreciating what Peter's done, what he gives up. I think it gives us more insight into Peter. And then we're dealing with Ben thinking about being his own self again, which has been a common thing here. You get good action and you get some decent art in this. But sadly, the next issue, we're going to get more Peter in space. Now, I was looking at other people's reviews, and it is all over the place. I see 4-star reviews, 2-star, and all over. And so let me read just a little bit of a 2-star one. Let's talk about the bad. Introducing a new villain and having him last for 2 pages is a choice. Yeah, okay, they introduced this new villain, Plague, and redesigning him to look like Hush is a choice and not a good one. Okay, I could sort of see that too. I like Tombstone, but calling him caring about Spider-Man like this feels totally random. And I agree there. Why does he care so much about Spider-Man, Peter Parker in this instance? And he does recognize that, holy cow, this isn't Peter Parker, even though he doesn't know who Peter Parker is. He realizes this is not the real Spider-Man. And so that's an interesting take on it. Another one is 4-star, says the Earth story is generally so much better than the space one, in my opinion. And I agree with that one person there, 100%. This issue shows some of the best qualities of Kelly's run so far, which is making the world feel alive. There are actual supporting characters who actually have personality and are reoccurring throughout the run. Would I have liked to see, I don't know, Shay or Randy rather than May or her new boyfriend? I'm clicking on reading more here so I could read that. Yeah, For sure, they say. So as you see here, this person also said, Plague RX is whatever. I don't really care. The tagline on this cover is probably the best part of the character. So corny. They didn't like that character, Plague. Okay, I get that. I do think it's an interesting character. You can take the damage and things from one people and transfer it to another. So I don't dislike that. I don't dislike this villain, because we do got to create some new ones once in a while, right? And so overall, I don't think this Amazing Spider-Man is a bad pick, but there's the problem I run into. It's like, read one issue, skip the next. What are your thoughts on this? By the way, there's also some awesome, interesting open order covers as well. You might want to check out. The next issue I want to talk about is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Casey Jones, issue number 2. It has only 69 ratings, but a very positive score of a 4.0. And I gave this book a strong 7.6. The writer is Alex Pacadell, and artist is Amansi Neflin, which, you know me, I butcher them. First of all, I like the cover. The standard cover for this issue, I think, does sell itself. It says, hey, this is cool. You got Casey Jones, and it looks like he's going to go toe-to-toe with Raphael, which should throw some interest right there because they're friends, right? And so that's what's interesting here. So before Casey Jones meets his brand new enemy, he'll have to do battle with his best friend, because what happens is he's trying to search for this missing person, and so he has to work with some unscrupulous bad guys to do that. And because there's an alignment there, so they're helping each other. But Raphael doesn't really know that and gets himself there because Raphael was called by April O'Neil to say, hey, we need to stop Casey. This guy is hurt. He just nearly died. And now he's still going out there. We need to stop him before he gets himself killed. So good intentions come here, but lead to problems. So Casey's tracking down this person that was abducted. April is worried about him, so we have some great characterization. We have good characterization with the turtles as well. I like Casey Jones as a character as well. I found that this book has good art, and it's a fun issue. So Raphael goes after Casey, and I'm going to tell you, and I think it's sort of told from the cover, but it goes deeper than that. It doesn't go well. Let me read you a little bit of some other people's thoughts here. Here is one that is a 4.5 star. It says, I think this run is as good so far as the main Turtle series. Now, I don't know. I haven't been reading the main Turtle series. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. Do you agree? And this person also said, I wish the Shredder series was as good. I didn't know there was a Shredder series. Have you been reading it? Let me know about that as well. Another one that's a 4 star says 2 issues in, and I already really dig how they're handling this over the Shredder series. Casey really gets to stretch out so far while still having a believable reasons to put April and the Turtles on the page. And I agree, it didn't seem forced to have these characters. They just seem like part of this universe, and maybe they have been in the Turtles books. As I said, I haven't been reading it, so I'm not up to date on all these mutants running around necessarily. So, additional insight would be good. And one more, but just one says, this was pretty neat, but I kind of want more from this, to be honest. And I think that's always fair, but I do think that this book is very good. And if you're a Turtles fan, or even maybe more so a Casey Jones fan, this book is worth a look. The next book I want to talk about is Nightwing, issue 132, with 436 ratings. This book continues to sell well, with a 4.5 exceptional score, and I gave the book a 7.3. I didn't think of highly as they did. The writer's Dan Waters, artist is Dexter Soy, and there is some interesting other covers for this. The standard cover, in my opinion, isn't anything special. None of them are, but some of the other covers are, in my opinion, better. Nightwing takes a page from Batman's playbook and storms Spheric Solutions, ready to end his conflict with Olivia Pierce once and for all. But, unknown to him, she's been planning for his arrival here. And it's going to lead to a battle, of course, because that's what we get, right? So Nightwing's past issues here, and his past failures, what this is set up as, is coming back to haunt him. There is decent art in this. Decent is what I can say, and it's an interesting story. If you are a fan of Dick and you want to continue to see Dick swell and go well, this is a book probably to keep on reading, because will Dick be able to push through his past and go and achieve his goals? Only time will tell, or will he succumb to the pressure of guilt and all that? We're going to find out. It's an interesting issue, diving into his back history without doing what sometimes I hate to see is when they go and they change the character's back history so much it doesn't make sense. I don't really think we have that here, and I think that's where the writer does well of diving into the backstory but not tearing it apart. The next issue I want to talk about is Batman Superman World's Finest number 45. 246 ratings, 3.9 score, mostly positive, and you know what? I gave the book a 7.7. The writer is Dick Bag Mark Waid, and penciler is Adriano Gutierrez. I can't help it. I like to make sure everybody knows I don't care for that writer. That way, if there's any bias there, you already have that to see there. So with that, anyway, one of the people here with gave this book a 2-star. Said, I absolutely love last issue and was expecting more of the same, only with Lex and Joker this time instead of Robin and Supergirl. But boy, did it fall flat. And my first thought is this. That was sort of a one-shot story. Why did you think the next issue was going to be a continuation of that? It doesn't make sense. Then they say, I expected to get more dialogue, expanding the relationship between Lex and Joker dialogue that would highlight their similarities and differences. Well, honestly, I thought that was there. We had dialogue. Clearly, Lex is not happy with the Joker, especially since, he backstabbed him earlier, and that was addressed. So I don't get what that person's 2-star is all about. But who knows? Let's look at it with somebody that gives it a 5-star. This is a book I look forward to every month, and it's because this is the book Mark Waid just has fun on. We go from Superman and Batman chilling out to watching a ball game, which I really like that, by the way, to Hawkman showing up just to get absolutely wrecked. Yeah, that's true. He did. So, there's a big differences in thoughts on this book, and I get that. I thought the Joker and Luthor getting combined at the end is a little silly, but that's what sort of you get with World's Finest books. It reminds me of the Silver Age World's Finest, which I have some of and remember reading and how silly they were. Decent art in this. I do like that it had a Hawkman guest appearance. It's a character we don't see a lot of. I thought it was a fun story, and I think this is a new good starting point for readers that haven't been reading this. So if you've been thinking, hey, maybe I should check out World's Finest, it might be something that I would like to dive into, this is probably the issue that you should jump in on continuing going forward. Let's stick with another DC title, Justice League Red, number 4. 250 ratings, 3.5, mostly positive score, and I fell around that realm giving it a 7.4. Writer is Salman Ahmad, artist is Clayton Henry. And we have the confrontation with Red Tornado can wait no longer. Cyborg, Power Girl, Green Lantern, Simon Boss, which is sort of weird on this blurb here. It has to mention which Green Lantern, but still Green Lantern. He's a Green Lantern. The Red Canary have taken part in one of too many missions where they didn't have all the facts. And here's something does bug me a little bit. It seems like whenever these writers introduce sort of a newer character, they've always got to be so much more powerful than everybody else, especially if it's a female character. And that's what we get here. The team is together, and their goal is to stop the world from a big apocalyptic event. But will they be enough to be able to stop it? We have Black Adam, too, and he makes this team look bad. I mean, he just takes them down like, you guys suck. Though I will say there's decent story here and decent art. I am interested to see where this is going to go going forward. I like that we have different characters here than what we normally have. So it gives us something new in how they work together. But you know what? Let's look at some other people's views here. We have this person here that gave it a 3-star. It says, which I'm honestly glad it does not tie directly into the events of the story. They're talking about DC Knockout. It is short enough that I'm glad we get more of what it's been. I am also being honest, the cover being redacted for so long, it's also bait. One can argue it's not, but truly there's nothing special about the cover. Okay, fair enough. They didn't like the cover. I don't understand. It's not redacted here, but different people, maybe they're talking about a different issue. I don't know. And mistakenly put it here. Another one gave it only 3 stars. Definitely the weakest issue so far, but definitely a necessary chapter for the plot that has some nice character moments. I'm glad to see that the team is finally all together, even if they're just standing around in a room and talking for most of the issue. And there's probably the knock on it, where they go a little too much into blah, blah, blah dialogue. This is a comic book. Now, if it was a regular paperback, I wouldn't mind that much. But when people are going to read a comic book, they're looking for a combination of the narrative reading, but also the visuals are equally as important. And that's where sometimes comics like this, I think, make a mistake. They go too much into the blah, 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 padding for the trade, where maybe they should focus a little bit more on it being also a visual medium. But, you know, that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this? I would really like to know. I'm going to get the next issue. I'm definitely going to check it out. Now, this next one I want to talk about is definitely one that's probably controversial. Hopefully you noticed how ridiculous I just was. Definitely, probably. That didn't make any sense. I think the reason I said that is this is probably going to end up being controversial for some people, but let's find out together. And that's Captain America #5. It has 651 ratings, which means it's selling pretty good, which we needed for Captain America. The last few series have not been doing that well. And it has a 4.5 exceptional score. And I gave the book a 7.4. Not as high as they did, but nothing to crap on necessarily. And it's written by Chip Zdarsky. Artist is Vero Shiti, which, ooh, that could come out bad, right? And anyway, a tale of two captains here. And that's actually what I liked about this issue. As Steve learns the true nature of his mission into Laviteria, he finds himself at odds with his former ally, Dave Colton, the current Captain America, whose path to freedom grows more violent by the day. Who will be the last captain left standing? Let's be honest, we know who it's gonna be, right? Absolutely. So I find this to be an interesting story. And so far it has decent, good art. I think the cover was definitely eye-catching with the blood and the picture, all that. I really think they did a good job there. And at the end of this issue, we get Cap joining the Avengers again. And I'm looking at some other people's views here, and it seems to be a lot of 4 stars. I really don't see much of people that are absolutely mad at it. So that really surprises me because I thought it'd be more controversial. But here we go. I found a 2-star. So let's check that one. I mean, cool, I guess. Cap being discharged from the army nullifies all of Grunwald's 80 stories. That's true, but I don't think this is like main continuity, which hinged in Steve being informed by the Commission of Superhuman Activities that he had never been officially discharged from the U.S. Army. And that led to the creation of Cap's Hotline Service and down the line U.S. agent. Okay, there's some good points here, but as I said, the way I read this can't necessarily, well, it does have the whole Doom thing, and that's where it leaves me a little lost, because it sort of changes the whole history of Captain America from the very first place anyway, and I'm proud that they understand some of Cap's history there. But it wasn't Cap being discharged, by the way. He left. He said, I'm done. I can't do this. And that's why he became what he was when he left. But a lot of people are really giving it a good one. Here's a 2.5. To be honest, I don't know exactly how to feel about this arc, and that's probably where I'm falling in. The decision to make Captain America Year 1 is an interesting use of the floating timeline. And right there's the problem I have. It's a floating timeline. I don't know how this fits in to the universe. But the heavy focus on Laviteria and Ross feels like it was done more to set up the true first arc of the run, the next one, rather than tell a complete story in this one. Well, we'll have to see, I guess. And I think that's my whole major issue, is I don't know how this fits in. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. Maybe I'm missing the point. But to me, I'm asking myself, is this sort of like a alternate timeline? Because this doesn't fit the traditional timeline. Or are they meddling with the initial timeline and screwing things up? I don't know. But let's give it a 5-star review now here to mix it up a little bit. An absolutely brilliant series thus far. Both the writing by Zdarsky is brilliant and the art is stunning. I'm loving this addition to the Captain America mythos, as I enjoy Dave Colton's character quite a lot, and I hope the rest of the series is just good. The only problem with Dave Colton is it's almost like another take on U.S. Agent. Though I don't think Marvel's been doing U.S. Agent fair in a long time, right? But that's me. I would like to really know your thoughts on this issue. Is it controversial, or am I just the old man yelling at clouds? The last issue I want to talk about today in our virtual comic shop is the Ultimates issue number 18. 853 ratings, 4.5 score, exceptional. I gave the book a 7.3, not near as high as they did, but that's okay. The writer's Dennis Camp, artist is Juan Vergara. Now I will say this one, I think the pace is finally picking up. All right, this whole issue is pretty much Iron Lad talking to everybody, connecting through all the communications networks to do a pitch for everybody to join the Ultimates together. So this is an interesting issue, but it seems to be, in my opinion, maybe I'm reading into this, help me out if I am, it's very skewed version of what is going on currently. They're trying to take and twist what happened and apply it today from a very skewed perception, right? But maybe I'm reading more into it, but the reason I think I do that, and maybe it's fair, is because these writers continuously do that. So correct me if I'm wrong, am I, having a wrong-sided view of this? That's okay. So that's literally what happened this whole issue. Iron Lad spends this issue making a speech. So you would think, well, that means this didn't move the story forward. But in a way, this is probably the fastest paced issue of this series we've had. And I think we could tell that it's picking up pace and now moved into the third act to get to the conclusion. I believe the series is getting canceled soon. They're ending it. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And you can see the pace being picked up to do that. And I think it needed to, because it was really starting to drag. But let's look at some other people's views. Here's a 2-star. This will work as a full review of the series. As the end game of this series approaches, third act, we are at the final stretch, not only for the series, but renowned writer Den's Camp and artist Juan Ferreri. Also, the new Ultimate Universe, something I can only call a failed experiment. Majority, in fact, in regards to this comic specifically. Yeah, and they mention here, and I think this is something interesting, from issue by issue, we were presented corners of what made the universe that were rather shallow with minimal development throughout. And I think they wrote too slowly, but they could have added more depth. And so I'm sort of talking from both ends here, because there were issues where they spent the whole issue describing a group that comes into play. So I don't know. Maybe it's a start and stop pacing. I don't know what to take from this. But, my opinion there is I can see some of the complaints there. I think there's some validity there with those. But, let's look at something that says something quite different, and that's a 5-star review. To me, this issue solidifies the intent of this series as a work of revolutionary art and a political call to action rather than a character-driven narrative like a lot of people expected. Now, see, there's the issue I have. A political call to action. Marvel writers tend to always skew to whatever one side is that they don't like. They have to villainize and make comic books with they're the villain and things, and that's why I'm seeing things that way. So let me know in the chat. Do you see it differently? Do you think this was on the nose, political, far slanted viewpoint? Or do you just think it happens to be somewhat coincidental? I would like to know your thoughts on that. One more review to top it off here. Let's try to find something in the middle. Here we go. We have a 3.5 star. As much I love the speech Den's Camp wrote for young Tony Stark, this issue really showed how disconnected the rest of the Ultimate books are. It was great to see Luke Cage's resistance network grow between prisons with the radicalized teenagers helping others, and even Danny Rand following Shang-Chi to his destiny. Now, I liked that part too. But I think they brought up some other points too, with all these other books are not really lining up with it. We got a quick one panel of the Mysterios saying, oh, they know. So there is some, but I think there wasn't enough integration, especially with the Spider-Man book, to connect. Because, there should have been some more known going on here. But that's my views, not yours. Let's bring it into this virtual comic shop. Remember, talk in this in the chat like you were standing next to somebody. Don't come in there instantly belittling them or playing silly, acting like you didn't know something when you came in, even though you did, because you're trying to get a gotcha moment. No, instead, let's be civil. Let's be humans and actually talk. That's what makes these things fun. We can all like something and not agree about every element of it. And I think that's what makes it amazing. I appreciate all of you, and I know you don't all agree with me, and that's great. That's perfectly fine. But I still wish you all well, and I hope you're all safe and are all blessed. So take care of one another, and until next time, keep it frugal.